I've always been told in my career that no brief or presentation is complete without org charts, diagrams, images. So I've decided to completely depart from that today and speak to the problems and the challenges that we're facing in the Arctic without graphics and without support. So the first thing I'm going to do is throw a whole bunch of numbers at you. And the reason I'm going to do that is that we can't address a problem without defining the problem first. And so, as was rightfully pointed out in the last presentation, the terminology matters. NATO's terminology is different from Canada's terminology, which is different from many of our allies. So what are we talking about when we talk about an Arctic security problem? Well, we're talking about, in the Canadian context, the fact that our problem starts in what most nations would address as the far north, but that we call the Arctic. And when we look at that environment, 4% of the Earth's surface is in the Arctic realm, with only 4 million people living there. So it's extremely sparsely populated. The resources are scarce from an easily used perspective, and the challenges get greater due to distances and removed from the support structures. In Canada, we've got 4.4 million square kilometers of Arctic. Note that I used metric, unlike others. And that is 40% of our total land mass in the Arctic. There are 36,000 individual islands up there, and those about a third of them are actually large enough to sustain communities and/or military endeavors in the area. The population of our Arctic, the Canadian Arctic, is only about 150,000 people. So there's not a lot of sport to draw on up there when we start talking about power projection into that realm. And that is one of the first key challenges. The second piece of challenge up in the Arctic is the question of sovereignty. So when we talk about Arctic sovereignty, we think that a lot of the disputes over territory and use of the Arctic are settled. And we would be right from the standpoint of international borders. There's only one still in dispute between the US and Canada in the Western Arctic. But what is not settled is the law and the use cases for the Arctic that allow for different nations to pass through. The question of whether it's an international strait versus an archipelagic zone, change what nations can do in that realm. And there is not international consensus on that. So that leads us to the problem of what are we trying to do in the Arctic? Are we trying to enforce Canada's sovereignty, keep all other nations out, and exploit the resources and other items in the Arctic that can benefit Canada? Are we trying to support our communities in the Arctic for ongoing habitation and interests of the government of Canada and support to our First Nations there? Or are we trying to open that for a region of commerce and development? When I look at the Arctic and the emerging problems, the first thing to note is, as was pointed out in the previous brief, it's not going to be ice-free in the near future. We're talking 10 to 15 years down the road before it's ice-free. So immediate actions in the north are not something that looks like presence year-round, monitoring of it the way we would our normal maritime approaches, and not from the standpoint of commercial use on a large scale in the Arctic. There is small-scale commercial use, and supporting and sustaining that is important to the defense of Canada. However, we are not looking at that maritime and land persistent presence. We do have the challenge of air defense within in the Arctic. The potential for attack is significant through our Arctic airspace, and that presents its own challenges from a defense perspective to push aircraft into the north that we have bought over years, which were oriented largely to either a NATO mission or a Pacific mission with easy sustainment, bases in close proximity, and not necessarily the environmental conditions of the Arctic. So that creates the sort of space we're looking at. We're looking at an Arctic that is opening up but not there yet. that presents us a defense challenge that we need to address within the next 10 to 15 years, and which has an existing air element to it that must be addressed on an ongoing basis. So when we address that problem, who's acting up in the Arctic? Who's supporting this security challenge? Well, that ends up with a very diverse list. And I'm going to focus on the Canadian side a little bit here rather than the Allied up front. And then I'll talk to the Allied afterwards. So when we look at the Arctic, first and foremost, the majority of communities in the Arctic are First Nations, which bring with them all of the cultural engagement and challenges that go with that. They're small communities that are easily affected by the things we do up there, and we must work in partnership and ensure that our actions in the Arctic aren't damaging them. Canadian Coast Guard, they're the primary power projector in our Arctic for now. 9 ships up there each summer, which does present certain opportunities, recently integrated to D&D and giving us that resource. Canadian Armed Forces presence, we have the Rangers in the north, which provide our persistent eyes and ears in the communities and in the space in the north. Then we have RCAF projecting both patrol aircraft and fighter jets up to our northern borders to address emerging threats from Russia and China in those spaces. We have DFO acting up there for environmental concerns, and also Environment Canada working with them. And then public safety and our international partners in the Arctic. So from the basic perspective, we have what looks like 9 organizations or 9 large interests in there just from a security partnership perspective. And those organizations will each bring their own view and their own priorities to the mix. So it's a challenging space. We don't get agreement between government departments here in the main areas of Canada. It gets even harder as we move to the Arctic. Pile on to that the sustainment challenges of Arctic operations. Communities in the Arctic don't have an excess of supply. So if I send a ship to the Arctic and they refuel at a community, the 600 cubic meters of fuel that ship takes is more than most of the communities use in a year. So sustaining operations in the north can have that impact of taking the critical resources that the communities have and resulting in other problems that must be addressed in the north. Delivery of goods is hard. As was pointed out, air travel moves north-south, not east-west through the Arctic, which makes it very challenging. The Navy's recently had the demonstration of that, trying to get parts to a ship in Iqaluit. Those parts had to go to Greenland before they could go to Iqaluit to get there. So that's less than ideal shipping directions and shipping delays, which present their own challenges. And then finally, persistence in the Arctic. We've already seen in our attempts to establish a northern Arctic port at Nanisivik that building in the Arctic is not always as permanent as we would like it to be, with that port proceeding to sink into the local geography and not being viable anymore from an ongoing standpoint. So all of those are the sustainment challenges. Monitoring of the Arctic, so maritime domain awareness or just domain awareness in the Arctic is also challenging. This is all remote. We don't have any persistent sites in the Arctic that provide that monitoring at the moment. We don't have fixed radar emplacements. The old dew line, if I can borrow something from ancient history, is only just now being reinvigorated with the modernization of NORAD. And that's something that we need to be looking at from monitoring, that there's nothing persistent up there. Surface presence from a monitoring perspective is possible in the summer months, but becomes increasingly challenging as we move to the winter. It does beg the question, is it something we need to do year round? And it's not at the moment, but as we move towards more and more use of the Arctic environment and greater threats from our adversaries, that becomes increasingly necessary in the environment. So that leads us to how do we address this? Well, when we look at international resources for the Arctic, there's 243 icebreakers in the world, either in service or under construction. 50 of those owned by the Russians. That means that there's not a lot of vessels to get up there. There's not a lot of vessels to do the jobs we need to do. Canada does have significant capability there from the standpoint of our icebreakers and the new ships that the Navy and Coast Guard are constructing. But none of those have the persistent presence to be there year round. We tend to withdraw them as the ice comes in over the winter months. So those are not the solution to Arctic monitoring. Where does that go? Well, in order to keep track of both the air threat and the surface threat that comes from our adversaries in the Arctic, we need to be able to project power there. We need to increase our commitments, both to ships, but also to persistent monitoring for the maritime domain awareness. There seems to be a perception internationally that emerging technologies will solve this space for us. There's a lot of talk towards drones, high-frequency surface wave radars, which look over the horizon, other satellite monitoring elements. The reality is none of these are likely to solve the persistence problem in the Arctic. Drones will be able to operate up there largely the same time periods that our ships do. Satellite monitoring in the Arctic is hard because of the orbits and the granularity of the satellites that monitor that space. And other emerging technologies have trouble dealing with the complexity of the archipelagic zone that is the Arctic. So there's not really a technological solution on the horizon to solve this. That leads to needing people on the ground, ships in the surface, aircraft forward base to the Arctic as being likely the solution for the future. And it is a crewed solution. It's not necessarily an uncrewed solution, which then presents problems with our personnel, our platforms, and our future structure. Increasing certain elements, such as the Rangers, do provide us an advantage, and that is something we're working towards as things stand. However, the reality is there's not a solution right now that has been engaged that will solve this for Canada or for the Allies. When we bring that down to the brass tacks of a military campaign, so the four elements that we talk about in a military campaign or a military zone is the ability to detect the enemy, where we lack at the moment and don't have a plan to rectify, although there's a lot of research going into the acoustic sensors, radar sensors, ship sensors that can be put in the Arctic, augmentations to our Coast Guard. Detection is the first step, and that's what we need to do most urgently in the Arctic, is to establish the ability to detect what's going on there, to detect everything from missiles flying over the Arctic through to small ships, drones from our adversaries entering those spaces. Second item is to deter. What do we do to do that? As it stands right now, our primary effort is building partnerships both within Canada and with our allies in the Arctic in order to demonstrate that we have the capability to be there and therefore the ability to deter adversary activity. That is an emerging space. There's a lot of work being done on that, and I will actually say that the Western Arctic has become a newer focus. This year saw the first iteration of what Canada calls Op Latitude, which is the Western Arctic presence, deterrence, demonstration partnership with the U.S. And we saw 2 surface ships, a submarine, and considerable air and land assets all up in the Arctic in support of that in August and September of this year. That goes hand in hand with the ongoing elements in the Eastern Arctic with Op Nanook, which has been an ongoing operation to demonstrate presence and resolve in the Eastern Arctic. So we are starting to look at both sides of that. We still haven't addressed the center, and that will remain an ongoing challenge because that's the hardest part to get to from either coast. When we talk about defend in the Arctic, this is the zone where there's work to be done and no real solution at the moment. So we can put a ship up there. Our Arctic offshore patrol vessels have minimum armament. They don't have the ability to deal with the air threat. The other vessels that operate up there are not necessarily militarized and therefore also lack that capability and lack any sort of direct military power projection. So this is a developing area that will need to be addressed as the Arctic continues to be an area of tension. And that leads directly into the defeat portion, where that military power to both deter, and defend also will affect the area. The last item, sustain, is the place where Allied efforts are seeing success. There's partnerships being built across the Arctic, both by the RCN and by the U.S. Coast Guard and others who operate up there. Right now, we look at 3 logistics hubs for the Arctic, being east, west, and in the center, and that's Iqaluit, Cambridge Bay, and Tuktoyaktuk in the west. All of which sustain our operations up there, and we are working with commercial partners to make sure we can pre-position the necessary logistic elements to continue operations in the north. So it's not all doom and gloom. There is progress being made. We are developing the ability to sustain. We're working on the detect piece, but there's still a lot of work to be done from a defense standpoint in the Arctic to continue development in the realms necessary for Canada to exert actual sovereignty in the north. Thank you.